Have you ever trusted someone so completely, built an empire with them side by side, only to watch them plunge a dagger into your back the exact second your crown began to slip? It is one of the most agonizing experiences a human being can endure. The sudden, agonizing realization that the person standing in your inner circle was never loyal to you, but merely loyal to your strength.
Think about the greatest betrayal of your own life. Did they turn on you because you did something wrong, or did they leave because you suddenly became vulnerable? They didn't betray you because you failed. They betrayed you because your armor finally cracked, and in their cold estimation, you were no longer useful to their ambitions.
Julius Caesar asked himself this exact haunting question on the blood-soaked floor of the Roman Senate house. As 23 steel daggers pierced his flesh, he didn't just feel the physical pain of dying. He felt the catastrophic realization that every friendship he had cultivated, every pardon he had granted, was a complete illusion.
Centuries after the fall of Rome, the undisputed master of dark political strategy, Niccolò Machiavelli, diagnosed this exact human failing with terrifying, unsparing precision. Machiavelli didn't look at human nature through the lens of morality or hope. He looked at it through the cold, surgical lens of power dynamics and self-preservation.
Machiavelli locked onto a brutal law of power that most leaders, rulers, and everyday people refuse to accept until it utterly destroys them. He wrote, "If you want to test the true measure of a man's loyalty, do not test him in times of prosperity. Show him the absolute end of your power. When you are winning, everyone is your friend. But when the tide turns, mask after mask begins to fall."
To understand how this dark, psychological law tore down the greatest Roman of them all, we must step back over 2,000 years into the heart of the Roman Republic. It was an era defined by cutthroat ambition, where political alliances were forged in blood and broken in greed, and where mercy was often mistaken for weakness.
Picture Rome in 44 BC. Julius Caesar stands at the absolute dizzying zenith of human achievement. He has crossed the icy Rubicon, crushed his political rivals, conquered the fierce tribes of Gaul, humiliated a terrified Senate, and declared himself dictator in perpetuity.
To the common eye, Caesar is practically a living god. His word is absolute law. His victorious legions stretch across the known world, and men bow before his golden chair in total, breathless submission. He believed that by forgiving his enemies and elevating them to high office, he had secured their eternal gratitude and constructed an unshakable empire.
But Machiavelli, looking back at Caesar's court through the pages of history, would laugh at such dangerous naivety. Machiavelli knew through cold, bitter realism that absolute power does not buy genuine loyalty. It only buys temporary obedience, fueled by fear, greed, and temporary self-interest. The moment those incentives vanish, the obedience vanishes with them.
Caesar made a fatal, deeply human error that millions of people still make today. He confused submission with devotion. He surrounded himself with men he had pardoned during the Civil War, men he had lavished with wealth and political titles, believing that human gratitude would bind them to his throne forever. He forgot that men forgive an injury much faster than they forgive being indebted to your mercy.
Machiavelli warned against this exact delusion in his timeless writings. A man who owes everything to you does not love you. Deep down, he resents the absolute weight of that debt. Every favour you give him reminds him of his own inferiority. The heavier the debt of gratitude you place upon a man's shoulders, the sharper the blade he hides behind his back.
As whispers of conspiracy began to echo through the dark marble corridors of Rome, Caesar committed his ultimate strategic mistake. He lowered his guard. He dismissed his personal Spanish bodyguard, believing his past invincibility and his extraordinary generosity were a permanent shield against human treachery. He believed no one would dare strike the man who made Rome invincible.
Machiavelli's doctrine teaches us that power is a volatile, temporary currency. The moment a leader shows a single flicker of vulnerability, hesitation or fatigue, the predators lurking in his inner circle immediately smell blood in the water. They don't see a leader to be protected. They see an opportunity to be seized.
The senators who plotted Caesar's downfall didn't just hate him for his tyranny. They hated him because under his towering, sun-like shadow, none of them could ever achieve supreme glory. Their secret envy turned into bitter hatred, and their ambition demanded his public execution, disguised as a strike for freedom.
Then came the fateful Ides of March. Caesar walked into the Senate House, completely unarmed, supremely confident, and entirely alone, stepping right into Machiavelli's ultimate laboratory of human nature. Surrounding him were not his enemies from the battlefield, but the very men he called his friends and political allies. As the first bronze blade cut deep into his neck, Caesar didn't just feel physical agony. He felt the shattering psychological reality of Machiavelli's law. One by one, 60 men drew hidden daggers from beneath their purple-bordered togas, closing in on him like a pack of starving wolves. Look closely at the brutal details of history. Decimus Brutus and Marcus Brutus, men whom Caesar treated like his own flesh and blood, men who held high office solely because of his extraordinary mercy, were the very ones leading the slaughter with their daggers drawn. They didn't strike from the front, they struck from the shadows of his trust.
When Caesar realized the depth of the betrayal, he stopped fighting. He pulled his purple toga over his face, choosing to die in silence. It wasn't an act of cowardice. It was the final, tragic acknowledgement that in the brutal game of human power, loyalty is a myth that dies the exact millisecond your power comes to an end.
Now, take that historical mirror and hold it up directly to your own life. Look at the people sitting at your table today. How many of them are standing beside you right now because of who you are as a person, versus what your power, status, money, or emotional energy can provide for them? If your empire collapsed tomorrow and you lost every shred of your influence, how many of those loyal faces around you would transform into your executioners? Drop your raw, honest thoughts in the comments below. Share your story, and subscribe to The Paradox of Power for more deep dives into strategy and human nature.